through
I
the
can share
APT
it
or
with all
to
of you. What I'll do is I'll email all of you the link.
Oh,
Oh, that's
Thank you.
excellent. That's
Mhm.
Be
excellent.
good?
thank you.
Okay.
Do you have our email addresses?
I do, because you
Excellent.
had to have an email address to send when you signed up for this.
Right.
Okay, Martin, are you
Yeah.
there?
Yep.
Okay, so I can see the ceiling.
Actually, I've got I got the camera closed off, so you're just
okay.
seeing, you're
It
seeing a
looks like
sticker,
the
actually.
ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay. So my name is Marianne, by the way. I'm under Renee Cartwright's Zoom account. So that's why it brings me up. If you see my name, it probably says Renee.
I think you can rename yourself.
Oh, here's a rename. Okay. Okay, so we have 41 people attending today. So that's kind of exciting.
Yay.
And
What's her name?
so Brenda, did we say hello to Brenda?
Hi. Hi.
Hi, Brenda. Thanks for
Hi.
being
Thank you for having us.
okay. And here comes Judy. This is so much fun. This just makes me feel like I'm not so alone, you know?
Mhm.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, we got
Hello.
Pat coming on. I brought my big Macintosh computer to work today so that I could have a big screen so I could see everybody.
Smart.
Yeah. Hi, Pat. She's got like a picture up for her. That's so cool.
I'm in the car, so I didn't think it would be appropriate to have the picture on.
Oh, that's fantastic. No problem at all.
Hi, Pat.
It's nice that you have that in your profile so we can see you. Okay, we got a couple more people coming on.
No,
Hi, Robert.
I'm on.
Okay. All right. Hi, Linda. Oh, she's connecting now. Okay. So do you guys, so for those of you who are new to Zoom, there's a couple different views that you can take advantage of. One is a speaker view. So if you, and you get that at the right hand, the top right hand part of your Zoom box, you'll see it says either speaker view or you can go back to gallery view. If you have speaker view, the person that's talking or making noise will come up really big and everybody else gets really small. And if you go to gallery view, everybody's kind of the same size.
Did you switch up?
Okay, whoops. Cheryl Hill's coming on. Hi, Cheryl.
Are you doing what?
All right.
Spring
We
cleaning.
got Rebecca joining us. Everybody's very timely, aren't they? Okay. So what's everybody doing at home to keep busy?
I'm painting.
Nice.
Ooh. Who said that?
Rebecca.
Rebecca, what are you painting?
I'm painting some abstract paintings.
Nice.
Really? What's your medium?
What do you mean?
Yeah, hi.
Are you using acrylics,
Oh, yeah,
watercolor?
acrylic. I'm sorry. Yes, acrylic
I'm doing fine.
on canvas. Hmm.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and I
Good for you.
just bought. I went to Michael's and ordered all kinds of
Oh,
acrylic
well, my
and
mom passed away on the 15th of April. We really only have hard
for my
Hang on one second. Rebecca. Okay, sorry about that, Rebecca. I was hearing too many people.
I just said that I went and I ordered on Michael's a bunch of acrylics and canvases for my 3 grandchildren that when it comes in, I'm going to drop it off at their home.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Curbside.
So I'm a watercolor painter, but I did a lot of acrylic in college and back in the day. But so my husband was like, when we first got sent home from the OPC and we're gonna, be at home for a while, my husband's like, get your paints out. Like, I want to see you painting, And so I've been making watercolor cards.
Aw.
So I thought it might be fun. I went on Amazon and just ordered them. But Paula said you probably could get a better deal at Michael's. And they're doing that curbside pickup.
Right.
So I'm thinking about doing a watercolor kind of tutorial. And then once everybody feels comfortable and gets their supplies, then we could do like a Zoom and paint together and do some cards.
I've
Wouldn't that
never
be
done
fun?
abstract painting before. My husband was an artist, and I just saw it on YouTube. And you put the acrylics on. You take a blow dryer and you blow it, and it just.
Oh my gosh! Have you seen the drip painting stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, so it is 2:01. And we have 20 of our 41 guests. So what I will do, Peggy, is we'll go ahead and get started because I appreciate all of you that were here right on time and I don't want you to have to wait. So we're going to go ahead and get started and then I will pay attention and let people in as we go. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Marianne McCauley. I'm the program manager here at the OPC. We have a lot of fun things coming up. I'm planning a lot of different virtual presentations and different events. This Friday, we have our Good News with the OPC, which is something that we're doing every Friday at 1 o'clock. And we have entertainment and just fun things that are going on around the town. So you'll want to check into that. That's Friday at 1 o'clock. It's called Good News with the OPC. And you're going to see like live music and just some fun things. And we want to hear what you're doing. And you can share some good news with us. So with no further ado, Peggy Ruby and I met this beautiful woman years ago, and she is just a genius at putting everything in its place. And I used to when I would talk about you, Peggy, I used to say, she takes this and she takes that and poof, it's done. So go ahead and it's all yours, honey.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen so that you all can kind of see what I'm talking about as I go along. Usually if I present, I do this in person. So welcome to the stay-at-home order. If you have any questions about anything that we talk about today, there's a little chat box down at the bottom. So you can click that. You can choose if you want to chat with everyone. You can choose, there's a little drop down. You can choose to just chat with Marianne if you have like a technical question or something you want to talk to her about. And then there's also reactions down at the bottom. So Marianne said she was going to keep an eye out. If you guys can see, like I have a thumbs up on mine right now. So you can always do that if you had a question or you are just curious about something as we go along. So Let me share my screen. So you all are going to see yourself here for a second. Oh, maybe not. Cool. Okay. So can everybody see that okay? Marianne, I guess if anybody says that they can't see it, let me know. And I can
Well,
always...
here's what, before you get started, I just want to make sure now that you're sharing,
Yep.
if I can, okay, yeah, I can still see the chat. Can everybody see their chat? Put your thumbs up.
And Marianne,
Let's make sure everybody knows. Down at the, okay, thanks, Rebecca. Down at the bottom of your Zoom box, there on the right-hand side, there's a little face and it says reactions.
Mhm.
And so you can do thumbs up. That means you understand what we're talking about. And then, so the chat button is over towards the left. It's the third icon over. And if you click on that, you can ask questions or make comments
Mhm.
like that. Okay? All right.
Awesome. And then I can't see the chat while I'm presenting, Marianne, so just
Okay.
let me know if you have a question. And I know there are going to be, there's question and answer after, so whatever works for everybody.
Okay.
Awesome. So hi, I'm Peggy Ruby. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Poof Estate Services, and we're an estate liquidation company that's based in Ferndale, Michigan. And we've been hosting professional estate sales in the Metro Detroit area for several years now, and we do them in cities such as Rochester, which is where the OPC is located. So throughout the course of our time in business, we've developed some partnerships with people that we work closely with that are in industries such as real estate, home stagers, home organizers, home cleaners, and by working so closely with these partnerships, we've been able to see the moving process firsthand and kind of get to know all of the moving parts when it comes to moving and kind of preparing for that. So a little bit about this presentation is going to have to do with spring cleaning in general, but a lot of it is going to be focused on if you're preparing to move, what are those options that you have for the items in your house and what hidden value they might have. So it might be best not to always donate or purge the items if you can save them for later and potentially make some money off of them. So before I hop right into the spring cleaning, I did want to talk to you a little bit about what it is that Poof does and what our services are. So we get the question a lot, what exactly is an estate sale and who is it for? So in a quick nutshell, the estate sale process, it's a full-scale liquidation of any and all contents within a home after a major life transition. So the process typically doesn't start until after an individual has moved from their property. And that's when an estate sale company is going to come in, they're going to reorganize, they're going to stage the home, which is kind of what Marianne was referencing. It's kind of how we do the staging to make the home look like a boutique. We're going to go ahead and research and price everything in the home. And then we actually open the home up for a 2 to 4 day span for customers to shop the property freely. So who is an estate sale for? A lot of people think estate sales are for individuals who have passed or for homes in which an individual has been left a home from someone who has passed on. It's actually, that's not the case. 80% of our clients are living and they're just going through a major life transition. So it's really anyone who has a home with extra items in it that they're no longer going to be keeping. And a little bit about us specifically. So Poof, we set ourselves apart in the industry in a few different ways. It is how we show ourselves professionally to the world and how we show our clients' homes to the world. But it's also about making sure that we cater an experience to our clients' unique situations. Everybody's situation is different, and the collection that you have in your home is going to be unique to you. And so we believe that the estate sale process should be unique to our clients as well. And we offer a white glove service, which is essentially making the process extremely stress-free for our clients and making sure that they're not rushed into any situations or any decisions before they're ready to make them. Because if anybody has an estate sale in their life, it's most likely going to be the only one that they have, and it's probably going to be the only time they've experienced that. So for us, it's about making sure they're educated and making those right decisions every step of the way. And right now, if I were to back up a couple of slides, you probably saw that one picture where everybody's lined up in front of the house. That obviously can't happen right now. We can't have the 25 to 30 people shopping in a home kind of all crammed inside or waiting in line because of the COVID-19 situation. So what we have created is an online shopping experience for our clients. So our customers are able to shop online, we're able to photograph the items and post them there, and people can do porch pickup from the homes that we host an estate sale in. So rather than having to have everyone kind of line up and congregate together in the home, we're able to do it online with that minimal touch, curbside pickup or porch pickup for anybody who is interested in purchasing items. And then last, a little bit about Poof. So I've been in the industry personally since 2009. I actually lost my mom in 2009, and that's when I actually was introduced to the estate sale industry. I was confused about the entire process, and it really did not go well. So it's kind of been my mission ever since we started Poof in 2016 to make sure that everyone is educated on the option, because maybe it's not the right fit for you, but if it is, it can be really beneficial. We host 50 plus sales per year. We have 12 staff members. And because of the size of our staff, we typically specialize in homes that are between the 2,500 and 7,000 square foot footprint. But that doesn't mean we don't do homes smaller than that. It just means that we are equipped to do the larger houses. A lot of our estate sales are really full, and we can handle large collections. So I just like to mention that no matter what size the home is, we can typically tackle it. And then in 2018 and 2019, we won Best of Ferndale, which is the city that we operate out of. And then just last year, we won the Service Excellence Award through the American Society of Estate Liquidators. And on the left here, this is an example of one of the homes that we did. This one was in Ann Arbor. And so this is an example. She actually just moved. It was actually a really quick move for her. She moved out of state. And it's really common for people to just kind of find a folding table in their house and pop it up and kind of throw some things on it. And that's how we enter a lot of these spaces. And so the image below, we didn't bring anything into that house. That was all stuff that already existed there. We just pulled it from different rooms and stylized it and made it look really nice for individuals who were shopping. And literally everything in that room ended up selling. But it was just, for us, it's about how we present that. And the same goes for our online estate sales. So last thing about estate sales in general, who qualifies. This is just a short list of individuals that we've worked with in the past, just to give an idea. A lot of people are just downsizing from a larger home to a smaller home. Maybe they're moving into a senior facility. A lot of people are retiring out of state. Maybe they're snowbirds and they have another home out of state already, or maybe they have a lake home just in Waterford and that's where they're moving to. We've done combined homes. So again, really it's just anyone who has a home that they don't want any longer, that they're selling, with items inside that they need to dispose of. So moving into the spring cleaning when you're preparing to move. I'm sure everyone is familiar with spring cleaning in general. Most of us have done this many times before, whether it's because we're redecorating or maybe we're clearing out our closets and we want to get a whole new wardrobe, or maybe we've got some projects that we want to do. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between when you are spring cleaning and preparing for more space in your home versus when you're spring cleaning because you're preparing to stay at home, or I'm sorry, when you're preparing to sell, and what that looks like right now with the stay-at-home order. So typically, when you are not moving, what you're doing is you're looking to see what you want to keep, and then with what you're not keeping, you're either tossing it, you're donating it, or you're giving it away to a loved one. In this instance, when you're preparing to move, or when you can't physically get it out of your house right now, the process is really going to be about sorting to decide what you want to keep. Then you're going to want to separate it, and then you're going to want to plan for a place to store it right now. And so that's kind of what we're going to focus on today. So I always like to break it down into the 3 S's. And that's going to be sorting, selecting, and separating. And so those are just kind of the overall, those are the overall phases of each section of your home that you're probably going to tackle. And when you're approaching any space, you just want to keep these in mind. And then we always recommend that you're going to want to start small with any project that you're tackling in your home, because the process of deciding what you want to keep, especially if you're planning to move, can be kind of emotional, because you don't know exactly where you're going. Sometimes you don't know where that item's going to live. And so it can kind of pull at your heartstrings, and you've been looking at that item for a really long time and deciding whether or not you're going to bring it with you. So we always recommend, like I said, start small. A smaller closet, like a coat closet, or you know, just picking a section of your kitchen sometimes can take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. And a larger walk-in closet size space, if you see this one pictured, you know, there's some drawers and things, especially if you got boxes kind of up at the top, in the top of the closet, that can sometimes take anywhere from 6 to 8 hours when you're going through and looking and deciding if you want to keep it and doing those sorting pieces. So like I said, start small, because if you go and you try to tackle your whole garage or your whole basement or your whole kitchen at once, it can become really daunting, and then you're probably going to have a half-finished project, and it can become really overwhelming. So the first one, the first S is sorting. And so this is a big discovery phase. What I recommend when you are going through a space you haven't been in a while, in your kitchen cupboards, especially towards the bottom, and in your closets, you may have things that you haven't seen in quite a few years. So that first discovery phase is just going to be seeing even what you're working with in that space. And then you're going to want to start categorizing. So I've been guilty of this, and I know a lot of my clients have been guilty of doing the arm sweep on a countertop when you have guests coming over. So some people have done like that, you know, you sweep it into a box and then you stick it somewhere and you haven't seen it in a while. We probably have some of those boxes laying around. And then there are things like, you know, maybe you bought something and you stuck it in the closet and you completely forgot about it. Those are going to be the things you're finding. So I always recommend categorizing, making piles, and then before you get started in that space, anything that doesn't belong in that space, put it where it does belong, or decide whether or not it's immediately going to be trash. So, you know, maybe you open your junk drawer and that's what you're going to tackle for that moment. If you've got nail polish in that drawer, or maybe you've got, you know, old nuts and bolts, either take them to the garage or to the bathroom, or decide that it's trash right there and just kind of get rid of it immediately. And last there is going to be considering the condition. So again, is it even still usable? If not, maybe it's a good idea to just go ahead and toss it right now. The second S is going to be selecting. So this is the decision-making process, and this is usually the bulk of what you're going to be doing. And I always like to recommend to gather your supplies before you start this process. The supplies I usually recommend are going to be, if you are moving, you're going to have a couple of extra boxes. If you're not moving, it's probably just going to be one bag for tossing and one bag for donating. If you are moving, you can add to that a box for things that you'd want to move with you, and a box for things that you're probably going to want to sell. So you're going to have 4 different things with you. And so as you're selecting whether or not you want to keep this item or whether or not you want to do something else with it, you are going to want to kind of categorize it into a pile. And obviously, if you're keeping it, you're going to want to put that item back where it belongs. So what having those supplies with you is going to help with is just saving you that extra step and that extra work later. A lot of people make piles and then they have to go get something, then they have to put the pile in where it, you know, in the item that they just got. So I just like to have those things ahead of time so you're not making 6 different piles and then redoing all that work later. So this, again, selecting, so you're going to just make those decisions in this phase. And then the third S is separate. So this is the step where you're going to make a plan for what that location is going to look like for the item now that it's no longer living in that space. So is the item moving with you? You're going to have to think about where you're going to store that box. Are you donating it after the stay-at-home ban lifts? If so, we're going to talk about where you might want to put that in the meantime. And then are you planning to sell the item in the future? If so, these are all going to have different storage locations. And I always like to mention, if you are entertaining an estate sale at all in any capacity, the more items that you can leave where they are, the better. So if we use this closet for an example, if you had this kind of space to work with, everything on the left here could be items that you don't want anymore, that you're looking to sell, and you can leave it there. If you have an estate sale, that company is going to take care of it for you. You don't even have to touch it. And then all the items on the right could be the clothing that you use regularly. Same with your kitchen, same with your library, whatever it is. If you don't want it and you don't need the space right now, you can just leave it where it is and just kind of segregate it. And so a couple of quick tips that we have when you are kind of going through those phases. So for people who aren't quite sure how often they use it, or they maybe need to keep track of how often they're going to use it, for clothing, small appliances, and knickknacks, we kind of recommend the following things. So for your closet, in this picture, you can see here that all the hooks on the hangers are facing the same way. When you go into your closet, first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that everything's facing the right way or the same way. And then over the next season, as you pull an outfit out and wear it, when you go to put it back in your closet, face the hook the opposite way. And so what you're going to start to notice is that the hook of your hanger that's facing the opposite way are the clothes that you are consistently wearing. And so anything that stays facing the original way that you put it, especially throughout an entire season, maybe some clothing that you can do. Is there a question, Marianne?
No, I was clarifying that in my brain.
Oh,
So
yeah.
can you just say that one more time? So
Yeah.
when you put your closet together, you have all the hangers, say, facing the same way.
Yep.
And then as you wear it, you turn it the other way.
The hook.
So then after a certain amount of time, you're going to know just by the hangers what you're
Yep.
not wearing.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. And so that kind of makes the decision a little easier, because instead of having to make decision after decision after decision by holding these clothes up in front of you for an hour straight, it's just going to kind of over time make sense to you. Not everybody has the time. You know, some people are moving right away, or some people just really want to clean their closet right away. If you can make those decisions in your time and, you know, in one time sitting, great. But over time, that's an option. For small appliances in your kitchen, or maybe yard tools in your garage that you just can't remember how often you're using these things, we recommend coiling up the cord and putting a rubber band around it. And anytime you go to use that small appliance, you can go ahead and cut the rubber band. And anything after a few months' time or a season that the rubber band is cut, obviously it's something that you've used. And if it continues to stay rubber banded, it's probably not something that you're touching very often. And it could potentially be something that you sell or donate or toss. Now, obviously, you know yourself. So if it's something like a bread maker and you really enjoy making bread around the holidays, that could be something that you just know for yourself is something you want to keep. Doesn't necessarily have to use the rubber band method. And then for knickknacks, there are 3 different things that we typically recommend our clients apply when it comes to things like vases or sentimental pieces. When you're looking at it, think to yourself, first of all, does it have a sentiment attached to it? If so, it's probably going to be something that you're going to want to keep around in some capacity, so it might be worth keeping. Does it match the decor plan for where you're going if you're moving? Even if you like it and it doesn't match but it doesn't match the decor plan, we've had a lot of people who just keep boxes in their basement for 6 or 7 years after they move because they thought they liked it, but then it didn't really match what they were doing where they were going. And then the third thing is, do you just enjoy it? I mean, honestly, if you truly really just enjoy the knickknack or the piece, we recommend to keep it, because there's going to be a time in your life where you're probably going to want to look at it or use it again. And then the next tip that we have is for people who think that they may miss the item, or for people who may have sentimental pieces that they want to see more often. So when you're going through this, there are a lot of people who don't have the space for where they're going, but it means a lot to them. And so we run into this a lot. And what we always recommend is to take photos of the items as you are going through them, and then creating a photo album or a scrapbook of those pieces to look back on. This can be really good too for a lot of our clients have boxes and boxes of things from their parents' home or from their childhood that are in their basement that they really never touch, but they don't really want to get rid of it. Photos for those kinds of things can be really great. And also, you know, if it's something that you don't know, or something you haven't seen in a long time, and maybe you did find it in your basement and you haven't seen it enough, that's when we recommend doing things like making a shadow box. So they sell them at Michael's. You know, you can just kind of put some things in there and hang it on your wall. One of my favorite things I've seen is people have taken like an old side table and done a shadow box in the table. So it's actually a functional piece of furniture, but you can still kind of see the items inside. And then other people are more private and they don't necessarily want their sentimental items on display. So that's why I kind of photographed this box here. So just finding something special that looks nice to you from the outside, but is private, that you can still put on a shelf out on display, but that you know what's in there and you can kind of take a look at it. Okay, so now we're going to kind of move into the storage portion. As I mentioned before, whether you're keeping the item, you're going to be donating it soon, or maybe you're going to sell it or move it, those are all different. Those all have different storage needs. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about next. So our tips for storage are a little bit lengthy, so bear with me, but they're all very necessary in our opinion. So typically we recommend that the very first thing you want to do is choose a space. So not everybody's going to have a bunch of room in their garage or a bunch of room in their basement. So the first thing you want to do is know realistically where you have the space to put these items. That's going to be the first thing. Based on where you can put the items, you're going to want to think whether or not it's temperature controlled, because that is going to dictate a little bit about what you can do and what you can store in there and for how long. So if you know, for example, that you only have space in your garage, you may want to make sure that the containers that you're choosing to store certain items that may be porous, like fabric, wood, paper, things like of that nature, are a little bit more protected. And we suggest when you choose a container for an area that may not be temperature controlled or may have some water potential, like a basement that may leak, to have clear containers. Then that way you don't have to continue to open and close the box to see what you have stored in there, to see if there's any damage being done to it. You can just kind of see already what you have in there and how it's doing. Obviously, items that are hard plastics, metal, glass, those do not need a lot of attention. So those are things that you could toss in a cardboard box with a little bit of newspaper, and those things are going to be totally fine for the long term. But again, it's going to be the things that are porous that can be susceptible to mold or water damage. And then you're going to want to label the items as you're planning to store them. I recommend doing this as soon as possible, even when you're potentially creating those boxes ahead of time before you're selecting what you want. Then that way, when you do move it to its eventual location, it's already labeled for you, whether or not you're moving it, whether or not it's being donated, and whether or not it's going to be sold potentially in an estate sale and that kind of thing. And then I always recommend stacking it with care. An example is people always think that the heaviest box can go on the bottom and as much can be stacked on top of it as possible. I always just recommend considering the items inside the box. So we've had clients who decided that they wanted to sell their record collection. They kept them all in their boxes, but they had them standing straight up. And then over time, what happens, especially if it's not temperature controlled, the records start to kind of bend and warp, and then they're no longer holding their value. So consider what you have, because even though, you know, same with books, you know, the binding of a book can warp and it can eventually start to break. So depending on what you have, even if it's a heavy box, just consider what you're putting on top of it when you're storing it, because I know not everybody can have this beautiful, you know, shelving unit with all these storage options at their home. And then where you want to eventually store it is also something to pay attention to. If you are planning to create donation piles for donation after the stay-at-home order, right now they have done some lifting. So for example, like as an estate sale company, we are considered non-essential retail, and we have just been open to be able to do porch pickup. but donation companies are still kind of struggling with what category they fall under. So some donation companies aren't even open right now. So if you did want to take something to a company, they may not be able to accept it. And I don't know how much porch pickup they're doing. So you'll want to check with your local donation company, whoever you typically work with, to see what they are offering. But if you have to store it for a small amount of time, you are going to want to think about your distance to the door. So these companies are definitely not going to come into your house to get these items. So if you're going through your closet on the first floor and you create a big bag for donation, you're not going to want to put it in the basement, just have to lug it back up the stairs in a month when Purple Heart can come and pick it up. So just thinking about potentially putting things that you're going to be doing something with in the short term, either near a garage door or somewhere closer to your front door or a back door where you can easily get it out. You're not doing all that extra work. And then considering the weight of the item, you know, for example, in this picture, let's say this is a buffet or a sideboard that you really don't want anymore. It's annoying to you. Maybe it's a bit of an eyesore. If you are moving soon, or if you're doing something different in the next 6 months, it may be beneficial just to leave it there for now because it's heavy and you may not have another spot for it. But like I mentioned before, an estate sale company could sell it. So considering the weight of the item, it may not make a lot of sense to move it right now. And then, you know, again, thinking about the eventual location. If you are moving it, it can go somewhere like in the back corner of a basement, because most likely your moving company will go down and get those things and pack it up for you, so you won't have to move it again. And same with an estate sale. An estate sale company will move those things and display it for you. And then lastly is thinking about the value. You definitely don't want to put something, you know, maybe you have an old silk blanket that was maybe your grandmother's. You know, you want to sell it. Putting it in the garage in a cardboard box, you know, definitely think about the value of something, because you definitely don't want it to be ruined in that spring cleaning frenzy. So next I wanted to, I have a question. It's a poll. Is this for
Everybody
me?
has. This is
Oh,
for
everybody has it?
I
Nice.
thought this would be a good time.
I love it.
So it says, have you found a treasure while spring cleaning during stay home, stay safe? So all you
I
have
love
to
it.
do is go on there and make your vote. And then I'll show you, Peggy, all the results.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I want everybody to know that your volume is muted right now, but if you have any questions during this presentation, you know, just kind of put your hand up and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask, right, Peggy?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we got 8. Okay, I'm gonna 3, 2, 1, end the poll. And here's the results. So we have 1 person or 3 people that found something and they really want to know what it's worth.
Awesome.
We have 3 people that found an item that they thought was lost forever. We have 2 people that haven't started spring cleaning yet. And we have 8 people that haven't found any good. But I have to tell you, when I started cleaning out, my niece convinced me to clean out all my jewelry boxes. I had it kind of scattered in different places because I was convinced that was safer. And I was given my mom's pearls, and I haven't found them in years. And I found them. So thank goodness for spring
Awesome.
cleaning. Okay,
Nice.
those are great results.
Yeah, I would love to see what the items are. I mean, I know we're on video, so if that person's on the video, and I mean, you can always send me a picture if you'd like to know what your item is worth. We do that all the time. So whoever those individuals are.
Or Peggy, I think you mentioned that you wouldn't mind doing a private Zoom like this,
Mm-hmm.
and the person can kind of show you the item that way too, whatever's easier.
Yep.
Okay, thanks. All right.
Cool. I love that you did that. I love those. Very cool. Awesome. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about when you're going through your items, when you are making those decisions on whether or not you should store it to potentially sell it. And even if you're not moving and you think you might move in the next few years, storing it now is fine too for that. But in my professional opinion, just the kinds of items that hold hidden value when you are going through the spring cleaning phases that other people sometimes don't know can hold value. So the first area of the house that I always like to talk about is the bedroom and the bathroom. This is the most common area where people feel compelled to purge and just donate or throw everything away. And it's actually the areas of the home where items for estate sales are most sought after. And people are often surprised by this. I know it's lower on the list here, but perfume is huge. If we get perfume, even just like a couple of drops left in a bottle that are available at an estate sale, people go wild. Especially if it's a scent that they don't make anymore, but somebody's been wearing it for years and they can't find it anywhere. It doesn't matter how much is left in the bottle. It's definitely worth selling. There are going to be things like jewelry. People always think that they need to take jewelry to a jeweler or they need to sell it at auction. Jewelry is actually a very, very popular and common item found at estate sales. So it's always something that can be set aside and sold later. And our job is to make sure that it is priced accordingly. So it's always worth thinking about selling in that capacity. And then clothing, accessories, shoes, handbags, men's or women. If it's not fast fashion, and fast fashion meaning maybe it's a pair of stretch pants from Costco or maybe you got it at Target, those are going to be the brands of clothing that are kind of, they're not as well made and maybe they're going to degrade a little faster. The clothing that's going to have a brand name attached to it of some capacity, those are going to be the things that people will purchase easily. So clothing, accessories, shoes, handbags, hands down, you should keep it and potentially sell it later if that is the direction you're headed. And so as I kind of move through these next couple slides, it always says at the bottom if you're unsure. I'm going to be sharing our phone number and our email address. So as Marianne suggested, you know, I can always do a private Zoom with anybody if they have questions on whether or not it's worth selling, but you can always send me a picture directly of just an individual item and I can do the same thing. The next section is going to be household. This is another place where people often think it's just something that should be donated, and I always recommend keeping these things for sale. It's going to be any gently used kitchen. You know, if it doesn't have a bunch of scratches in the Teflon, if it's a pan or if it's a toaster and it still works and you don't want it, this is where I'm recommending pick an area in your kitchen to segregate it in cupboards or something like that, and then you can keep it there and it can be sold later. Anything in a garage. And speaking of garage, anything outside, bird baths, you know, patio sets, whatever it is, if it's in the garage or it's outside, it can be sold. And then linens. This one is going to be linens that are pre-1980s or current, can be sold and are often very easily sold. So thinking of, you know, tablecloths from the 50s or hand-stitched linens that are antique, all the way up to things that you maybe just purchased from, you know, Marshalls or Home Goods recently that you haven't even taken the tags off of. All of those linens are sellable. Electronics as well. If you can plug it in and it works, it can definitely be sold. And then the third section is hobbies. So vintage toys, anything pre-1990s. Anything that's post-1990s could still be considered sellable, but it's so current and it's not necessarily as well made. So we always recommend if it's pre-1990s, definitely keep it and it could be for sale. Exercise equipment, people love to buy exercise equipment because people are always kind of going in and out whether or not they want to actually work out or stay on a diet. Being able to purchase things from an estate sale at a little bit lower price, especially exercise equipment, is great. Books, records, and magazines. Big sellers, magazines and catalogs pre-1980s. We've sold Sears catalogs from the holiday edition. People have kept Sears catalogs in their homes, totally forgot about them, and we've sold the holiday editions for $50 to $75 a piece. Books are interesting. If you don't know specifically about that book, don't donate it. We actually had a client recently, her husband had passed. He loved books. He had a whole library and she was so over the books. She just wanted to get rid of them. The books together, what she didn't realize is that he was a part of a sci-fi book club collection or book club subscription. And he'd been doing that since the 40s. And that collection of books brought $20,000 for her estate, just in books. You know, he had original Lord of the Rings, and she had no idea, you know, so that was super helpful for her because she needed that cash, you know. So again, any of these things that you find in your house, before you donate it, definitely consider, you know, saving those things for sale, especially if you're planning to move. And so, as I mentioned, I'm going to share the information here. So that's our phone number. You can text pictures there, and then that's our email address. Again, you can send pictures there. If you're on Facebook, you can find us on there and do the same thing. And, you know, either whatever method works best for you, we are always available. And then things that are okay to toss or donate. Do you need me to go back to that slide, anybody?
Yes.
Okay. I'll leave that up for a second, just in case. All right. And then moving on to the things that we recommend are okay to toss or donate at this time. Used toiletries. So expired food, current magazines. So if you have a current subscription that you're getting and it's just collecting a bit of dust, those are okay to recycle or toss, whatever needs to happen there.
Hey,
Compromise.
Peggy,
Yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I
You're fine.
had unmuted people so they could ask questions, and I was muting everybody right when you started this slide. So would you mind starting over?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, not a
Sorry
problem.
about that, everybody.
That's okay. Yeah. So used toiletries, excluding the perfume, expired food, current magazines. So if, you know, you have a stack of magazines that's maybe collecting a little bit of dust and it's not, you know, things that do well are like 1970s architectural digests, things like that. People just love to see what people were doing in that time period. But like I said, 1980s or current, you can go ahead and toss those magazines if they're kind of holding up a little bit of space for you. Heavily used kitchen items. So this is going to be, you know, pots and pans that are really heavily gouged, maybe bakeware that's got a lot of caked on grease. Same with small appliances if they don't work or they're having a little bit of trouble. Those are all okay to toss or donate. I think I skipped one there. Compromised items. So anything that, you know, we all are familiar with the flood that happened in the area. That was a while ago, but some of those items still stick around. If anything was compromised, maybe as mold, pest issues, those are all okay to toss or donate. Linens that are heavily torn or soiled, fast fashion, like I mentioned before, those linens that may be 1980s or current, and up until, I'd say 2005, not current, I'm sorry. Non-working electronics, tube TVs, definitely. I will say I can't even get rid of those for free, unfortunately, just because they are null and void at this point. And again, if you're unsure, feel free to send me a picture or send me an email. And then these are just a couple of things that I like to mention. Before you toss it, Poof is a very sustainable company. We try our best to keep as much out of the landfills as we possibly can. It's not always possible. But, you know, when the stay-at-home order lifts, places like humane societies will always take old linens and pillows, things like that that you think may not necessarily be able to be reused. Local homeless shelters can take a lot of things that you may think aren't necessary. DTE will take any era appliances. I do believe they still need to be working, but we can double check on that. So they will actually give you $50. Oh,
that's right. That I was just going to say, I think I just got a letter that said they'll give me $50 for any used appliance I have.
Yep. Yeah. And so this has been super helpful for some of our clients where they, you know, they have a refrigerator that they've had since 1960 in their basement and they don't want it or they want to replace it. DTE will literally do the heavy lifting for you and they will come and get it and they will give you $50 to do it. And then I always recommend social media. You know, porch pickups are huge right now. People have a lot of time on their hands. If you do have something that you're thinking you might toss, if you use social media, you could throw it up there for a minute and see if anybody's interested in it. And then, you know, there's always different options for electronics recycling, battery recycling, whatever it is. So things are a little bit different, but you can always reach out to your local communities to see what you've got. And the OPC, you know, Marianne, you may have some connections too with different things that people might be able to utilize when it comes to, you know, different areas in your community people could definitely donate things to.
Right. I know that we'll be having our used jewelry sale next year, 2021. So if people
Awesome.
are cleaning out their jewelry and you come across you know, any jewelry you're not using, you can definitely donate it to our sale. And, you know, that goes towards our Meals on Wheels programs.
That's
so
great.
we'd really appreciate that.
Awesome. And then this is our information again. So this is kind of wrapping up, but if you are interested in what we do, or you have items that you're just curious about, or you are thinking you may move in the next X amount of years, it is literally never too early for a consultation. And right now is the easiest time because we are offering virtual consultations. So if you were able to get on the Zoom call, you can definitely do a virtual consultation with us. And so it's really just, huh?
I just have a question. Like, how much does an estate sale cost, or how is it based?
Oh yeah, so an estate sale, is there music? Do you hear that, Marianne?
I hear music too.
I don't know. Sounds like hold music.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody's on hold. So an estate sale, there's no upfront cost to any of our clients. It is all a percentage of sales. So it's going to be anywhere from 30 to 40% of whatever the estate sale makes. That's how we get paid. So the consultation is free and there's no upfront charge.
Okay.
Awesome. So that's
So
all I have today.
if you sold $10,000 worth of stuff, it would your company would get like 3,000 or 4,000.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just didn't have any idea. Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, a lot of people do think that there is a cost up front. And, you know, for us, when we're doing that consultation, a lot of what we're going to talk to you about is kind of what your plan should be for your specific house. And that's why that consultation, it can really happen whenever, because some people say, I don't even know if I would qualify for an estate sale. Can you just take a look and let me know? And that's often going to be the very first conversation you want to have, because if you're not qualified for it for whatever reason, then we can kind of help you plan your next steps based on that.
Peggy, this is Martin Krieger. Question for you. If we're looking to downsize to a smaller
Marianne, are you
home.
still there? Oh, everybody's back.
Okay. Can you hear me, Peggy?
I can now, yes.
Okay, yeah. Question for you. Is there like a minimum where, you know, if you have some items but not a house full of items, where you wouldn't be interested? What I'm thinking is we may be downsizing from a colonial larger home to a, say, a condo or something, and need maybe half of the stuff we have, but, you know, maybe like dining room sets and china cabinets and china and, you know, things like that, crystal, but not the whole house. Is that something your company would be interested in, or is there like a minimum where you wouldn't be worth your time per se?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do have a minimum, but it's typically a dollar amount, and it's not necessarily about the amount of items that you have. So, you know, when you kind of start to think about all of the different areas of your home that can have something for sale, it starts to add up. So, you know, when you're going from clothing and, you know, kitchen items and furniture and crystal, it's typically in the $8,000 range that we have our cutoff for. Below 8,000 doesn't necessarily work for our team. But that's what that consultation is for, because a lot of times people hear that $8,000 number and they're like, oh, I definitely don't have that. But you would really be surprised at how quickly that can add up. And so that consultation, we'd be able to tell you. And then on top of that, we're offering those online estate sales right now. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow for us to work with smaller estates, because we're not necessarily going to need a full home where it's going to have to draw a crowd of people into the house. It's going to be an online event. So we'll be able to work with people, you know, more in the $5,000 range or lower, when they just have a few items that they need to separate with.
Oh, gotcha. So if you're doing all online now, then it may be more beneficial for just, if you had, say, a dining room set with a nice, kind of cabinet and that sort of thing, that could go online and might be worth your time.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
And so that's,
Excellent.
yep. And that's where, you know, we'd want to just have that consultation with you, just to take a look and see it in person and let you know what we think.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Marianne, you are muted. I don't know if you were talking.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Rebecca, you might like this one. So I've been cleaning out closets and going through everything, and I live in the house I grew up in. So when my dad passed away and my mom moved into senior living, I moved into my childhood home. So I have kind of a lot of history in that home. And my mom was an artist and I am an artist. So now I'm cleaning out closets because my husband wants to, you know, have the basement done. And I'm finding like stacks and stacks of paintings that my mom did. And now I've given away a lot to my siblings and relatives, but there's some that like are half done, and like my stuff from college, like, what do I do with all that? Like, it's kind of like this, like, how do you throw away something your mom painted, even if it's not done?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Oh, hey there.
we sell a lot of original art. So people, you know, 9 times out of 10, the home is filled with art that the person who lived there painted. And we price and sell that just like it's art from a famous artist. So that can all be sold. If the piece isn't finished and it is on a canvas, a lot of times people purchase those canvases because canvases can be expensive. They'll purchase the canvas so that they can paint over it, so that they can essentially get a cheaper art supply, depending on what their budget is that they're working with. And then depending on how skilled the artist is, you know, we did an estate sale for a professor of architecture, and 80% of the home was filled with her original drawings. And I haven't seen a line like that in a very long time. People lined up forever to buy these pieces because they were unique, and it was something that some people knew the professor from the college, but otherwise it was just people who really enjoyed the pieces themselves. And she had done all of them.
That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I have another one, Marianne.
Sure.
So for Peggy, do you do coins like gold or silver or those sorts of things that may be newer or maybe older? Do you do coin collections, and how do you value those? Is it just spot on gold or silver, or is there value that you can determine per coin?
That's a really good question. Again, yeah, so we do sell coins, we do collections, we do single coins. We actually have an appraiser that we work with who specializes in coins specifically. And so it's part of our commission for him to come out. So it's not an extra charge to our clients, but he can value each coin individually. So we don't just do the value of the weight of the coin. We do the value of that coin specifically and kind of where it came from in its history.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Peggy, we have a question from Robert. How many online auctions have you run?
Great question. So we have only run one, but technically everything that we do has an online element for as long as we've been in business. So there's a website called estatesales.net. It's fun if nobody knows what that is. It's a fun one to check out just because you can shop from home. But everything we've ever done has been on estatesales.net, and we've done a lot of online estate sales through that because we're a based company. So any sale that we list, we can sell items nationally, and we've done that. But as for an exclusively online sale, we just had an in-person that was supposed to happen right before the initial stay-at-home order. And because the governor called it right when we were supposed to have that estate sale, we completely transitioned online. We got 700 members of our online group in just 48 hours, and we were able to sell 3/4 of the woman's home. And so we almost made the same amount that we would have in person as online because our followers all jumped on that bandwagon with us. So it's kind of fun.
Peggy, I was just wondering, if you deem the value is less than 8,000, do you have other sources that could help if it's, say the value is 4,000 total?
Yes.
Do you have resources that you could refer to if it's less than what you deem value enough to do a sale yourself?
We definitely do. So we have different estate sale companies that do lower thresholds. We have companies in every county. So we have vetted these companies, and we make sure that they, maintain good relationships with their clients, that they have good reviews online, that they're, they have good standards of practice. So those will be people that we would recommend, that we would refer to. And obviously we always work with every client before we just say, no, we can't help. We'll see what their options are and what it looks like for them.
Okay.
So we have another question. Do you have any appraisers or professionals that know anything about Asian agents?
I do. That is actually another one that we have. When we come across that, that's a very, very difficult niche sector of the market. So we do, and I can provide that. I can provide that name for whoever needs that.
Okay.
Asian art, Asian
art, yeah.
furniture.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
Marianne, just another comment to the group. I noticed that Peggy in one of the slides was showing plastic containers for storage. One thing we've used that we find very useful are bankers boxes.
Yes.
And if you're a member at Costco, they sell a very heavy duty banker box that's double-sided, can handle a lot of weight, and they're stackable, and you can label them, and I think you get a box of 10 of them for like $20, about $2 a box, but it's an excellent way to sort and store. I just thought I'd just mention that because we did quite a bit of that over the last year.
That's really good advice, Martin. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Joe.
Muted.
Nope, you're good.
Yeah, I just want to say that I've seen Peggy work, and I've seen her estate sales and cleaned up after them. And she does a professional job, makes it look like a boutique, like she said. So she's very
That's
professional.
why it's called Poof.
Yes, and that's why it's called Poof. And I really was impressed in how she handles her whole process. So just
because Peggy, I don't know if you talked about this, but after the sale, you have a team of people that can come in, get it all cleared out, donated, cleaned up, and poof, it's all ready.
Yep, exactly.
That's one of the most the most daunting things to look at. I was married to a man who loves to move and is military and has no problem with packing up kids and moving 14 times, and every single time it was still difficult, and moves are one of the most stressful things. And so now we have people that are on, stay home, stay safe, and they're trying to get their house ready. And it might not be for, next month. It might be for a year down the road or 2 years down the road, but it's overwhelming. And I loved what you said today about, take one thing, take a small thing and start there, but finish it. Right? Because if you are like me and you start like 50 different projects, it's just overwhelmed and you'll never finish anything. Right?
Yeah. And thank you, Joe. You're awesome.
Yeah.
I love working
Well,
with you.
speaking of Joe, this is Joe Goulda from Joe's Organizing. It's a new name, right? Because I saw on your Facebook and your website. So tell us what the name of it is.
quite stable.
My company's called Joe's Cleaning, Organizing, and Closets.
Okay.
We do all
There
the
you
things.
go.
Yeah, we do all three. So we do all
Thanks.
three.
Well, for those of you on right now, Joe is going to be sharing some more advice about spring cleaning with us next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. We're gonna post today the invitation on the Facebook and on the OPC email blast. So it's gonna be part 2 of the spring cleaning, and Joe's gonna take the expertise for those of us who are kind of in our house right now, aren't planning to sell in near future. And so we've been spring cleaning and we have these piles, Peggy, but now we got to put some of it back. So Joe's going to show us how to organize and give us some great tips on putting things back in order.
Love that.
Okay, so we'll see you next Tuesday. And then for any of you out there who, like me, are feeling that this time right now that's happening with us is very stressful. And it's almost like, for me, you know, I haven't been able to see my grandchildren. I'm a hugger. James knows me. Peggy, you know, people who know me know that I'm a hugger. And so this has been really difficult. It's really like a loss. And so a lot of us are feeling grief right now. For many reasons. It could be that you've lost somebody recently, or it could be that just the grief of not being able to, you know, be with those you love, or just not to have a normalcy in your life right now. So tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we are going to have Harvey on, and he is a certified grief counselor, and he's going to talk about how this stay home, stay safe kind of quarantine has kind of sent us all a little bit off and is causing some grief. And if you want to learn some techniques on how to get over that, join me tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
super day. All right.